السلام عليكم ورحمة الله مستمعينا الكرام مستمعاتنا الكريمات، مرحبا بكم في حلقة جديدة من بودكاست قصرة، ودائما كما عودناكم ضيوف مميزين ومواضيع متنوعة. اليوم عندنا ضيف خاص وعنده مسار خاص أيضا، وهو الدكتور أمين أرزقي. من هو أمين؟ أمين مدير التسويق والاتصالات بشركة طاليس بشتوتغارت ألمانيا. درس أمين هندسة كهربائية إلكترونيك بجامعة البليدة بالجزائر، وماستر في الروبوتيك والأنظمة الذكية بجامعة بيير ماري كوري بباريس. أكمل الدكتوراه أيضا تاعو في الروبوتيك، حيث عمل على كشف المسار وتحليل السلوك لمساعدة المشاة. له أيضا EMBA أو ماستر إدارة أعمال تنفيذية من لندن بزنس سكول. كما عمل أيضا مشاريع، عنده مشاريع كثيرة يعني ما نقدرش حتى رح نكتبهم، فرح نختصرهم بعجالة. هو عنده مشاريع اللي يعملهم في سواء في الإطار الأكاديمي أو العملي بشركات كبرى، حيث بدأ مشاريع تقنية في الروبوتيك وقعت افتراضي مثلا في تربوسية بأمريكا، وما عمل كمدير مشاريع أجهزة أو هاردوير بروجكت مانجر بأكا تكنولوجيز معروفة. وما انتقل إلى شركة طاليس الكبيرة واللي نسمع بها كامل، تخدم في مجالات كبيرة وضخمة. بدأ فيها كمسؤول خط الإنتاج والتصنيع، وتدرج في المناصب والمسؤوليات، حيث عمل كرئيس تطوير منصات السلامة، رئيس استراتيجية قطارات مستقلة، وحتى نوصل للمكان اللي راه فيها حاليا كمدير التسويق والاتصالات. وهذه راح نخليهم بعد يحكينا عليها بتفصيل، وهو جد ملهم فاش يعقب من يعني بيورلي تكنيكال حتى يلحق للماركتينج وامور اللي بعيده على التقنيه شويه. بلا اطاله، كلمه خفيفه مع طه، ونبدا مع الضيف تاعنا. تفضل طه.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله مستمعينا الكرام مستمعاتنا الكريمات. وخلى لي زبير والو اليوم يحكي على أمين ونشوقه فوت مباشرة. أمين شكرا جزيلا على إجابة الدعوة، شرفنا بحضورك. أعطي لك كلمة أولى نفتح بها الحوار ومن بعد نمشي في الحديث. تفضل.
السلام عليكم. Thank you very much for the invitation. Looking forward.
شكرا أمين، هل ممكن تحكي لنا كيفاش بديت حتى على بالنا رحت في الروبوتيك؟ بصح قبل كنت درت مهندس دولة في البليدة، كيفاش حتى خيرت التخصص ومن بعد مشيت في المشوار تاعك؟
في البليدة ديت بعد الباك بكالوريا، والدين قالوا لي روح دير ميديسين
كالعادة.
كالعادة. هو في زوج في الدومين تاع ميديسين.
الله يبارك.
لعب نورولوج، بروفيسور نورولوجي، وأمي في فيزيوثيرابيست.
الله يبارك.
كانت في الورد تاع سبورت بكري، كانت باسكت ليك ناسيونال تاع باسكت سا سكوب.
الله يبارك. انا فيها تحب الباسكت انت ثاني.
الاولاد يهربوا من المجال تاع والديهم لانه يحسوا ستريس عليهم، تسمى اذا كان ويك نورولوج هي فيزيولوجيست من بعد دير لك بريسيون تاع انت لازم تفوتهم شويه، يطلعوا لك لافار شويه الفوق.
انا جامي حبيت ميديسين خاطر الدومين هذاك يكون في السبيطار وتشوف لي مالاد، جامي مي صعب بصح البروجي شويه سي كيكوز كي ما توجور باسيوني. دونك انا بديت في يافي سبيسياليتي بلوتو، سيتي بلوتو جينيرال، كنت يعيطوا لها تكنولوجي. من بعد ابخي 2 ans تخير الكترونيك، انفورماتيك، افياسيون اكسيتيرا. وانا كنت مع اونتر لي دو، انفورماتيك الكترونيك، جيزيت اونتر لي دو. ما خيرتش هذاك الوقت. من بعد قلت باللي في الالكترونيك دوك تتعلم الالكترونيك، الاوتوماتيك اذا الاوتوماتيك يا انفورماتيك، باسكو نتعلموا بروغراماسيون. جو حبيت نتعلم لو ماكسيموم بوسيبل.
امين رانا نحكوا في 2005 هذاك الوقت اللي درت فيه الدكتور.
2000 اكزاكت.
كانت الانفورماتيك فريمون في الديبي في الجزائر.
كنت في الديبي في الجزائر
صحيح.
في الالكترونيك كنا نشوفوا شويه بو بلوس كونكري، باسكو كي اون بارلي بلوس d'automatique، c'était des choses qui bougeaient. كانت movable things, automation, moving, motors, you're moving automation, you're programming a board. ما انا قلت باللي ندير ان دومين وين راح نتعلم ان بو بلوس الكترونيك، من بعد ان بو انفورماتيك. والانفورماتيك تقدر تطور وحدك، انا فهم يكون عندك لي باز. دير كو انفورماتيك سي ديفيسيل تتعلم الالكترونيك وحدك ابخي.
صح.
Je me suis orienté à Akka. ومن بعد j'ai été chanceux en 2002-2003 تحت un groupe مازلنا très proche maintenant, un groupe d'amis où on a fait avec les concours de robotique, on a créé avec l'équipe de robotique de عيطنا لها باللي بوت بالليدا روبوتيك.
very original.
très très original. Ça a gardé le but en tout cas تاع l'équipe et l'origine. où il y a des gens, je suis toujours en contact. واحد أنا نتلاقى معاه justement après-demain. J'ai quelques projets hors Thalès, mais نقدر نهضروا عليهم شوية بعدا.
إن شاء الله.
Ça combine marketing et technologie justement.
مليح.
J'ai eu la chance de tomber dans ce projet parce que في l'université تاع الجزائر we are focalized on too much on theory sometimes.
theory oriented. صح.
في هذا البروجي بلي بوت il y avait vraiment application directe. There was this competition, there was rules, boundaries you had to follow, etc., etc. So it was kind of direct application with what you're learning at school or at university, and then you have to apply it on real application, a concrete application. So it was really a chance. It was really a chance to be part of it in the sense of applying the technology, but also the sense of working on projects and working with people, because you don't know, people have different mindsets. It's a teamwork. You have some deadlines, you have some pressure, you need to deliver. So this is something which you learn, which is not necessarily always visible when you write it on your CV. But these are the first skills you are learning when you work on a team in a project like this. So it was kind of very steep, let's say, learning curve, which at the end helped me a lot actually, because we did a lot of project with the team till 2005, I think, and then it helped me actually to move a little bit more into Europe for getting more expertise to see the state of the art of what's being done in robotics worldwide. So, and you were mentioning this in the bio that I was going through this university master in Pierre and Marie Curie. So at that time, it was one of the best universities in France. And very quickly, I went to the US. So I was lucky as well. There's a lot of luck what I've been doing. I had this internship in New Jersey in the University of Rutgers. This is where it's sometimes very weird. Sometimes you want to disconnect completely from medicine, and then you find yourself working with medicine application.
Wow.
So and I was working in the US in a project for neurology, so basically a specialty of my dad.
Wow.
So even my dad told me, "Come on." It was just a pure luck,
Yeah.
And it was really application for stroke rehabilitation. For people who had stroke. Stroke is accident vasculaire cérébral, AVC. And the project was basically how to apply robotics and virtual reality actually to motivate the patients to do their rehabilitation. Because rehabilitation is really a key for people who had this access to recover their mobility of arm, legs, and so on. And there, of course, you learn. I mean, you are alone. Basically, when I went to France, I was alone. I went alone. I didn't go with family or whatever. So I was really single person going there. So it's very common for people who went for studies like that. It's not very special, but a lot of people I hear on internet that they talk about, I'm a son of parents who are immigrants, and now I'm sitting.
يقول لهم أنا جيت وحدي.
All of you here, exactly, you went by yourself and you made yourself, right? So this is even like it's a Champions League.
Next level.
If you want to connect it to football, which is not easy and which is not obvious, and it's not always known, because people think that there's a certain background of families who came before and to help you and so on. But many people did this by themselves, which is a higher skill of adaptation. And and for me, I mean, of course, I had these friends, and then I had the US. The US, you feel really, really lonely by yourself. In the beginning, the English is not that good. You are hearing different accents, because when you are working with students as well, you have people with different accents from Asia, from India, from Texas, and where they eat some words and you are not understanding and you are not getting all the sentences. So it was a hard time, but very enriching period to learn different cultures, to learn new skills, of course, of robotics. That's the first goal, but you are learning the surrounding of how the word is working and different interests of different part of the words, and how, and this is what was striking me, is how the laboratories in universities, how much they are connected to the world of business. So they are really entrepreneurs. So they are not thinking of doing a research, making a paper, and then just publish, and then they are happy. They are thinking further of how to monetize this, how to make a project and a product and a company out of it.
صح. هذه ممكن تحكينا عليها شويه، لانه جبنا ضيوف من قبل اللي راحوا داروا في الامريكان ولا يخدموا في لابز. الاند جول ولا الاند جيم تاع الريسيرش كما حكيت انت، انه يعني ايكونوميكال فاليو ولا كاش انستيتيوشن كبيره حابه عندها حاجه توصلها، لكن بالك تشوفها في فرنسا ولا في اوروب ولا حتى بالك في الجزائر ودول اخرى، اتس مور كيما قلت جيرد توورد يعني هذه ريسيرش، ساعات حتى بيورلي يعني فوندامنتال ولا بيورلي فور ريسيرش بيربس. بصح في الامريكان تحس الانجلو ساكسونز عندهم هذاك البراغماتيك ابروش. ممكن تحكي لنا شويه انت واش لاحظت من الاكسبيرينس تاعك هل كيفاش لاحظت هذيك الفرق تاعها وكيفاش اثرت عليك انت يعني بالاكسبيرينس تاعك كي من فرنسا ورحت للامريكان؟
There was a big difference because in France you can see it. I mean, when you are discussing with people, one moment you try to challenge the discussion, and then one moment it comes to it's just a research. Basically the goal, the paper, being happy, having your name on the article. But for me, it was like something which is not finished. I was a bit bothered with that because it's something like you are doing something, but you don't have really an end goal. For me, end goal is we need to bring something to the market. And I was always interested to that. So having a real result, something concrete. In the US, it is really, you work with industrials first. When you do the research, you're working with companies. So they are sponsoring you. So how you need to have the skills to negotiate sponsorships, partnerships. At the same time, you're working with, for example, in this project, we're working with a hospital to do trials. Doing trials with a hospital, with doctors, they don't do it just for fun, to have papers. They do it really because they want to create something out of it. No, there are some professors who are creating companies out of it. There are some students who are getting out of this research and then creating a company out of it. I have a friend of mine in the US these days. We have been working recently during COVID period for this 3D printable mask. And he was a surgeon, he was a PhD, and he developed a new way of printing devices, 3D devices and so on, but very, very quick, like mass production. And he's creating his company. So he has fundings from different institutions, and he's working with the Pentagon today. So this is, it's a kind of continuous way of doing, and this is part of their culture in the US. They are not just put just on the drawer and then say, okay, we have done research, these are the number of research we have done, and this is how you are going to rank the company or the university or the institution, but they try to do this transformation or the jump to the industry, which is very important. In Europe, if I can compare, I think there is Switzerland and Germany, which are moving to that direction. I've seen many researchers coming from universities and then creating a startup, so it's becoming really the trend.
صح.
I didn't see it, at least at that time, in France.
France, I'm not expert in what's being done in France, بصح أظن عندهم ستاسيون اف هذيك لاباس. مع ماكرون كاين واحد الإرادة أنهم يروحوا من هذه، كما حكيت عليها هذه السبين اوف تكنولوجيز، هذو عندهم بزاف في الأمريكان. يعني تلقى واحد يخدم في شركة تاع طيارات، بعد يلقى باللي مش عارف السوفت وير تاع ال 3 دي موديلينغ تاع الجناح، بعد هو يقول عليه ما نديروهاش في الميديسين، يخرج يدير ستارت اب يولي يخدم 3 دي برينتبل هذوك، يعني البروتيز. ولا تحس باللي عندهم there's always هذيك solve a problem. وهذه ديسكسيون هذه ديما ترجع لي لما نكون مع اصدقاء ونحكوا في هذه تاع entrepreneurship ولا ideas to create companies. كان اللي يحب ولات على مود هذه تاع entrepreneur ودير كيما في الجزائر لابيل وخدم، بصح you cannot just create كيما نقولوا company or entrepreneur for the sake of it. لازم لك عندك product, you solve a problem, عندك expertise.
This is where we come to the marketing part. This is because when I was working in the strategy for autonomous trains, there was a lot of, marketing is not just advertisement. Some people understand marketing as advertisement only, but this is only one part of the framework, which when you talk about how to promote. In the marketing, there's something very, very known. It's called the 4 Ps. So basically creating the product, price, promotion, and the other one is basically about the values. The thing is, promotion is a small part of it. When you see the advertisement, it is only how to show to the rest of the world what is the value proposition of your solution, product, or service only. That's the only part of it. And all the rest is about market study, is about creating the value, is about extracting the value of existing products. It's about how you're going to advertise it, but how you're going to monetize it and how you're going to sell it. So the place, the 4th P. And then how to do the analytics. And the analytics is a lot of math, a lot of AI, which is part of it, around it in order to understand the market trends. If you are developing something just to say, I want to develop something, it makes no sense. It's just going to be a waste. There's a famous stand-up comedian in France, and he's always talking about this, that now people are just developing something and adding AI or adding connectivity on it, like a pen with Bluetooth or a pen with Wi-Fi or USB stick, or, which is not really useful at the end of the day, but they try to move to that trend of creating a startup. But the first focus, as you are saying, you need to solve a problem. You are trying to develop something which is going to be helping a certain situation for population, society in general.
ودرك ولينا في الايكونومي تاع الترندز هذه، كل ما تخرج ترند بزاف ناس كيما يقولون يتعانشوا في الباند واجن. يعني لو ناخذوا البلوك تشين في يعني عندها بالك 4 سنين 5 كانت ذات واز ذا هوتست ثينج، يعني بلوك تشين بيتكوين كذا. فكاين واحد الشركه في الامريكان تبيع الجو تبع العصائر تاع البرتقال، سموا روحهم بلوك تشين جوس حاجه، زادوا كلمه بلوك تشين في الاسم تاعهم. أما قال لك هذوك واش اسمهم الشيرز تاعهم طلعوا. يعني لو تشوف صح دوك زيد الاي اي دوك اللي راهي هوت، يعني تشات جي بي تي اي اي كل مره تجينا ترند. ان اف تي عندها عامله عامين ورقدت.
This is a human being situation. Is there was some articles and studies showing that, for example, you are an entrepreneur and you want to launch your startup and you are trying to raise some funds, and they are saying that you have higher chances to get some funds if you are putting those buzzwords in your pitch deck. So if you talk about blockchain, Bitcoin, NFT, even if it has no relation, if you are putting it there, you have higher chances to raise funds. But it doesn't mean that you are going to succeed later on, because raising fund could be even a problem for the future, because you're losing control of your company, you are having debts, etc., etc. So it's not necessarily a success.
صحيح. أيام نحكوا على سبين أوفس it's a culture، لأنه لا كنت نشوف هنا في فرنسا ولا في أوروبا عادة ما يخموش أنه research is oriented to create a business ولا to create a product. يخمم أنه research only for research، ومن بعد كي تجي تقول له روح دير ستارت اب خليني برك فيها خدمة ونفتح company. لأنه from the beginning it was not the idea was the objective was the article, not the idea not to serve society. وهذه من نرجع research is society oriented ولا is KPI oriented، لأنه مرات it's KPI oriented. واحد مو يخمم في أذكر أن نحلو في مشكل ولا كي الناس رايح حاصلة نحلو لها في مشاكل. والcollaboration with industry اللي حكيت عليها هي ثاني مشكلة، لأنه when you have something with industry they want results, they don't care about your publication, maybe they care just for advertising. give me the results. وكاين واحد الحاجة في فرنسا اللي تضحكني، قبلكم الريسيرش في فرنسا كاين واحد الحاجة اسمها obligation de moyens مش obligation de résultat. ايش معناها obligation de moyens؟ أنا ندير اللي عليا، جات اللهم بارك، ما جاتش لا غلط. وهذه تخليك صح هذه قانونيا يعني when you have the partnership هذيك the agreement تكتب أي جماعة لازم تكتب علاش باش قادر في آخر لحظة يقول لك شوف تايم شيت هاوليك أنا خدمت ساعة كذا منه، اسكو خدمت اسكو ما جاش الريزلت الله غالب. هذه يلا روش. وهذه if you go to the US it's not like that. If you're not sure about your project, tell me from the beginning.
Even if it looks like that in the US, but it's usually long-term, very long-term views. So it means there's some research who are really short-term, you have to show results very quickly. But there are others who are really thinking about 20, 25 years.
صح.
But this is planned. Everything is really planned at that time.
So usually it's big projects, not very small projects. نحاول نرجع لك الماركتينج كنا حكينا. كيفاش اليوم ماركتينج is disturbed by AI؟ اسكو الماركتينج اليوم راح يتبدل with all the large language models اللي عندنا تاع chat GPT واخرين، ولا marketing will stay as it is, it will be just augmented using AI?
Today marketing is, if people are not connected to technology and they want to do marketing, it's going to be very, very challenging. Of course, you still keep this, let's say, classical way of doing marketing, but everything is going so quick. Technologies, AI is everywhere. I mean, it's like, I was saying this to a friend of mine, it's like blood, right? So when people are seeing it, they are always afraid, but it's always in us.
Needed.
And we need it. And it's always us, right? And so we need to get used to it and we need to work with it because it's there. So you cannot, it's like this chat GPT, you all heard about it, this, open AI platform for discussions and requesting needs and text. You cannot forbid the people to use it. It's there. You need to make sure that people can use it properly. You need to learn or teach the people how to use it in a proper way and put some boundaries, but you cannot restrict 100% the usage of it. AI is having different, there are different segments where you can use it in marketing. So you can use it for really doing the research, but you can also do it for targeting better the customers in the sense of understanding who you want. So creating really the persona of the population you want to target for your advertisement if you want to advertise something, right? And then to show the correct information which you want to show to the people. I mean, what Facebook is doing today, Instagram is in that direction, but it's getting more and more precise today. So all those platforms now, according to what you see, what you are looking and what you are searching, they know everything about your life. So it means they can target your needs. They know your needs and they can target product services according to your needs. So that when you're seeing any advertisement or getting an email or seeing any feed, you think that this is really for you. So you're not going to say, oh, what is this? I don't need it. And then you click out. It's going to be so much targeted to you that you think that somebody knows you like a friend or a close friend or family telling you, oh, I know this is good for you. Have a look, you know.
Wow.
So there is so much power on that. It's becoming just a part of it. Then we can go further, you know, about what you are seeing from different places. Is it the same as what you are going to see in, for example, I don't know, you're watching a football game today, right? You see those billboards which are surrounding the football game. So you have a publicity there. So today it's a screen. If they are showing Coca-Cola there, everybody's going to see Coca-Cola, right? But now what is moving, it's moving more and more to targeting advertisements. So it means everything is going to be virtual. So it means if you are sitting in France, in Paris, or watching from China, you're going to see different content on those streets. And this content is going to be tailored according to your profile. Maybe zone, geographical zone, maybe about your needs, your interests, etc. So it could be, granularity could be higher, of course, than what is being done today.
صح. أبك فكرتني في واحد لاسين في الفيلم تاع ماينوريتي ريبورت، مش عارف إذا شايفوه ولا ولا، تاع توم كروز. كاين واحد لاسين يجي فاي توم كروز قدام بانو بوبليسيتير وتخرج له يعني الاد تارجتد لهذاك البيرسون، يعني كما تحكي انت، يعني يضل كان نعودوا في هذيك الفيري تارجت، تمشي في الشارع في ستاسيون تاع مترو ولا تاع الاخر، مع كاينين حتى هذوك نظنك حطيتها في واحد السوشيال ميديا تاعك، هذيك تاع هذيك السمارت ميرور ولا الفيشل ريكوجنيشن، يعرفك باللي هذا مان ايج بتوين 30 to 36 ولا ايج to 20 to 25، تشوفك باللي اللحيه بيان رازي الله يبارك الحياه كذا، يقول لك بارفان، ولا يشوفك حطه تاع رايح نقولوا رايح سواري، بارفان تاع سواري، رايح الجامع بروفوزي لك مسك. فشو هذه فيري تارجتد كما حكيت. يعني انا نظن باللي رانا حتى في الفيوتشر رايحين يولوا الافلام والسيري مخدومين لينا، يعني انت تتفرج تدخل سيناريو، تدخل السينما تتفرج فيلم، سيدي هذاك يتفرج فيلم واحد اخر، يعرفك انت واش تحب، واش التيب تاع الافلام تحب تشوفهم، مش كذا، يجيني لك. مع لو ناخذ مثال هذاك تاع شات جي بي تي، انا جربته فريمو، تخلع تقول وتعرف اللي راه اتس جست في البيجينينغ، يعني مازال ما لحقناش حتى الاخر. هذيك النهار جربت، قلت له give me an idea of اعطيني جيم that's taking part in Algerian Sahara فيها كذا، واحد يحوس على lost treasure، وهذاك lost treasure مذكور في مش عارف في تكست مذكور، اعطاني سيناريو تاع جيم مديور في الجزائر في شخصيات. بعد قلت لو يكون كاين جيم انجن كيما يونيتي 3 دي ولا انريل ولا، وتعطيه الانبوت تاعو هو ذاك التكست اللي جينيري لك الشات جي بي تي، تحطه فيه يجينيري لك 3 دي هذاك الموديل تاع هذاك الجيم بلاي، الليفلز اللي فيه، كلش اللي فيه، تقول كلش راح يولي بيرسوناليزي في الفيتشر. والله اعلم.
Exactly, it's a question of time. Because this is, I mean, what you're saying now. There is another platform where you can generate all this 3D images and drawing and artistic work. I've seen some results. It's mind blowing. So there are some people who were trying to create some again football players when they were babies.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right. Then you can see the picture of Mbappe, of Neymar, and so on with a baby face, but you can recognize them with a jersey of their club or national team, and all that was created with AI. So it's only text. You are just explaining what you want, and then this platform is generating this. Of course, it takes so much resources today, to create those information, but this is a question of time in the future that this becomes even a real time.
صحيح.
وحتى هذه اللي حكيت لها كيما دالي ولا ذي تاع اوبن اي ولا كان ميد جورني، هذه جينيري ستيل ايمج. كاينه فيسبوك خدمت مؤخرا واحد يجينيري لك فيديو، وكاين واحد البلاتفورم راح لي اسمها نظن حتى في الماركتينغ استعملوها، شفت كيما هذوك اللي ساعات الجينيريك، هذوك الاشارات اللي يوريك امراه ولا راجل يهضر على شامبوان ولا يهضر على سوفت وير برودكت ولا وباي تو كوربوريت كوستيم وكذا، فهذوك خلاص you don't need to hire actors، تروح البلاتفورم تاعهم تعطيهم التكست يجينيري لك artificial women ولا مان، وانت تحوسها مرة لابسه حجاب ولا واحد كيما نقولوا هنا بشره سمراء، ولا كيما تحوس التارجت اودينس تاعك، ولا تروح تجيب 70 ممثل اللي تمثلوا لك، قال له حاب ندير الاد تاعنا في ان شاينا، شاينيس بيرسون نعطيه التكست، وهذاك فيرتوال بيرسون يخرج لك فيديو كل ما تروح عارفها باللي فيرتوال، والله ما تفيق باللي تقول هذا انسان، يعني الحركه تاع الفم، حقنا لواحد ليفل ما باليش ذاك وات ليفل حتى تدقش راح تشوف عينك، يعني عينك ما توليش ريلايبل يعني واحد يقول لك والله غير شفتها بعيني. ياي that's the least reliable source of information.
Yeah, and now with all the streaming platforms we have, so you can do that. So before it was difficult for you know, you have satellites, you're broadcasting everything to the same people and so on. But now everything is like, if you have Netflix, you can have all those specific targeting or specificities of the image to that person or persona. And this is becoming more and more like that. It's going in that direction. Yeah. And all that because of technology. So it's not the classical, let's say, advertising is going to be linked to the AIs in order to generate what we thought we have been seeing, but more targeted to people.
صحيح. لو نعقبوا الموضوع تاع الروبوتكس، لو تحكي لنا شويه برك على الباك جراوند تاعك فيه في الدكتوراه واش خدمت، وهاو يو سويتش تو وراك درك تو وات ديجري راك تستعمل واش قريت، ومن بعد نحكوا شويه على الروبوتكس ورانا دركا والفيوتشر. انا نخدم على الروبوتكس في الاندستري الروبوت كوكا اللي شايفهم هذا كوكا. كاين المصنع تاع مرسيدس اللي راح ذا وراك في شتوتغارت في زندلفينغ، رحت له اتس اولموست فولي اوتوميتد، يعني تشوف هذوك الروبوتات كوكا تروح للفيزيتي يصنعوا لك سياره من الصفر كلش وحدهم.
يلعب مليح بينج بونغ نبغى.
هذيك فيك ذاتس فيك تاع تيمو بول اللي عندي اصحابي بزاف هكذا كل المعارف يبعثوا لي في السوشيال نتوركس او في الايميل ولا يبعث لي في التليفون يقول لي شوف هاو روبو واش يدير. فهي فروم ماي اكسبيرينس يعني نخدم بهم ونشوف كيفاش يتحركوا، نسبوتيهم وين فيك نقول امبوسيبل، يعني ما تقدرش تاكسيليري وديسيليري في هذيك الاخر. فكيف قلت لك في حداكم في المصنع تاع مرسيدس سبحان الله كلش اوتوميتد، وهذوك كيفاش اوركستريتد كيفاش روبوتات ما يديروا جريف ما يحبسوا ما يرقدوا ما بوز كافي ما يشكى يبدا يفيس، في الاخير تلقى انسان برك واني يعني يتاكد ديسك كلش مخدوم مليح مش حاجه عوجه ولا.
ايه دا كي بديت روبوتيك في بليده ديجا نعاودوا لي بليده سيتي عندك قانون تاع اللعب. It was proposed or mandated by this Eurobot, and it was more about how to make robots autonomous. So basically, they decide by themselves. So it was more linked to automation.
Yeah.
So it means having a sensor, understanding the behavior, understanding the environment, and then taking decisions. So this is
rule-based decision, صح?
It was a rule-based decision mainly, yes, yeah. And then, but for that, I mean, to extract the information to understand what's happening around, you had a lot of, computer vision applications, sensor fusion. So this was a kind of complex applications embedded in one or concentrated in one small device. So it was not really seen from outside, but internally you had quite a good technologies behind, which you can see now more and more in autonomous cars and autonomous trains, etc. The difference is that here it was like a small thing. There's no safety around. It's a game. Outside, we're talking about moving people. So it's something a little bit more serious, right? You have to consideration all the safety aspect around. When I moved to the US, of course, in France, I was working more with and learning more about the different type of algorithm, different types of AIs you have. So decision-based AI, algorithm about computer vision. So there was all the scope of AI which you can consider in robotics, because robotics is not just an arm, which is, even if it's very complex, but it's really, really wide, a range of applications and technologies. And then in the US, I applied this robotic parts in two different ways. So there was this really a robot platform. So really something where you are putting your foot, you're moving a platform, you're having a control, like a feedback control from a video game. And then you had this video game part, which was the VR part, the virtual reality part, where you have all this AI type of decisions which you have to take according to your game. You know, every games today, this is AI based as well. But also there was a part of acquisition, which is how to detect the position of the foot, of your arm, etc., using sensors, different types of sensors and computer vision. So what I like in robotics is always a combination of different skills and different things which are combined together to bring a solution. And then when I moved to Thales and I started to work on trains, of course, at the beginning, I was working very classical things. It was more automation type of projects, like metro, like you can see in the metro of in Paris, line 14, automated metro.
خدموا طاليس
هذاك سي سيمنز دابا حنا درنا لا لين 13 مي بصح نديروا لا ديفيرونس. We distinguish between automation and autonomous. Automation is it's more like an elevator when you see line 14 or 13. It's like really, you have sensors, you stop, you decelerate, you accelerate. It's more like an automation. But when you go outside, this is when it makes things more complicated. Because those automated trains, they are existing since 30 years. So it's not something.
I like this point. I mean, the difference between automation and autonomous. نقدر نقولوا باللي automation. So automation is basically creating rules, and in a controlled environment, you basically know beforehand what's happening or what will happen beforehand. And autonomous is that you may know, but you may encounter something that you have never known before, but you can cope with that.
That's exactly, because the metro, you know exactly the boundaries, the limits, you know the distances, you know that there won't be any obstacles. Right. So you have all the rules are planned. So it's a pure automation. Autonomous, when you talk about like mainline trains which are running outside, you know, you can have rules, but you don't know what's going to happen in the environment. You can have I don't know, a horse, you can have animals, you can have a car blocked on the track because it's an open environment. So you need to take all this into account, that your train becomes intelligent enough, smart enough to distinguish between dangerous objects and non-dangerous objects. You cannot stop all the time, because if you stop all the time,
what's the point?
Yeah, because if you have like a small bag, a plastic bag, and you detect this as an obstacle and you stop, you know, the service is going to be not reliable. Exactly. And that's not what we want for passengers.
Well, let's go from that to future of mobility. When you talk about autonomous trains, حبيت نعرف ورانا رايحين. اسكو رانا رايحين trains اللي رايحين يكونوا semi autonomous، معناها maybe there is a human being كيما رانا دايرين level 1 to level 5 في autonomous cars ياك. Did you create the same levels for autonomous trains when عندك you have maybe a driver but they're not taking part of the driving unless there is something ولا عندكم كاين حاجة أخرى؟ Talking about autonomous trains أنا حبيت نحكي على mobility، لأنه trains اللي يكونوا between cities مش كيما trains اللي مترو كما كنت لي، مش كيما الترام وبعد نرجعوا ليهم نديروا الفرق بيناتهم.
There are also different levels. There's definition also on autonomous trains till level 4. You can compare it to the cars part. But in my point of view, before to talk about the global mobility, and this is something I can, I was touching about this in my TEDx talk. I don't know if you have been watched that. There's a certain definition, but it's very technical definition of level 1 to level 4, which I personally don't really like, because there's a misunderstanding there. Basically, it shows you how the driver is disappearing from the responsibilities, but it's not really true. The driver you would have always a human being sitting there for safety reasons. So basically, their roles are going to change. But the real goal, and this is why the marketing part is very important, how to communicate about this as well, is the real goal is to increase reliability, increase the number of trains, make sure that all the trains are arriving on time, anticipate also failures which you can have on the tracks and so on. Today, a driver, if you want to drive a train, for example, TGV or ICE train, you need to have a book thick like this, known by heart.
Wow.
And believe me, I'm working in railway with Talent since decade, right? I went last time for test a simulator, just a simulator for ETCS. So that's European standard, how to drive trains. The number of information you have to look at the same time is just crazy. You have to look outside, you have to look there, you have to look there, you have to make sure that you are pressing at the right time a certain button to make sure that you are still there and not sleeping. There are thousands of things that you have to do at the same time. So it's a very difficult job for a driver today. An autonomous train is going to make sure that the driver is there only
when needed.
When it's needed. He's going to play a role of a hero. Basically, when there's a big incident, he's going to take care to solve it. But the rest, everything which is a normal doing, driving from A to B, he's sitting there. He's just sitting there. But all the things where detecting obstacles, knowing the signal speed, and so on, technology is there to make this happen by itself, right? So, but the drivers, you will have always people there. I mean, you're transporting thousands of people. So you need to make sure that there's somebody who is responsible of the security of the people there.
خلينا نرجع future of mobility based on that. وين راك تشوفينا رايحين في المستقبل وش رايحين نشوفوا؟ خلينا نحكوا trains, and maybe we can talk about other transportation modes.
The key in the future is to make sure that everything is, let's think about the passengers, right? People who is traveling. This is really the goal, because you talk about trains, you talk about cars, you talk about planes, you talk about trucks. And if you take them as a silos, as a separated element, everybody is thinking about themselves, right? Everybody is thinking about, I need to sell more cars. The trains, I need to sell more tickets for the trains. The planes, I need to sell more tickets for the planes, and so on. But this is not serving the needs of the people who are traveling. This is the major problem. This is which we need to solve, right? Focusing on the real issue. And the real issue is not to make sure that everything is exploding in terms of sales and then the passenger is not happy, not reaching in time at the place they want to reach, etc., etc. To solve this, there's a clear need of cooperation between the different industries. And this is what is not existing today. So there is some tentatives, for example, between you can see between some train operators and some flight operators like Lufthansa, Deutsche Bahn. They're trying to cooperate a little bit to sell the same ticket for the same journey and things like that. But this is really, really a little thing of what needs to be done. But when you want to travel from a place to another one, you're talking from door to door. Okay, I'm in the train industry, but the train is not stopping at my door. I need to go to the train station, right?
تسمى the future انت كيما راك تيماجينيه one application one platform وين تحط فيها راني رايح من دارنا الادريس وراني لاحق example going to Riyadh and it will handle everything for you bus train metro and then on the other side in another country the same thing صح؟ هذه اللي يقدر يديرها جوجل برك through Google Maps.
No, not necessarily. I mean Google today can do the things, but it needs to be cooperation between all the platforms of lives because they need to have an interest. I mean, if you don't have a commercial interest, it's gone. Nobody is going to collaborate. They will need to have a commercial interest. It means a split of revenues or revenue sharing between the different types of mobility or something which is managed by a higher level platform. Could be a state, it could be another platform, a private platform, which connects all those mobility needs in order to make correct split and, let's say, optimize as much as possible the journey of the passengers. Because today it's still like, okay, I take a ticket, I can take my, scooter by myself, and then I decide, okay, I take the scooter, I reach at that time to the train, I take the train, and then maybe I reach in the other side, I need to rent a car. So all those things are a little bit not really smooth. They are done by individuals. And for people who are very busy, you just don't think too much sometimes, and then you just take your car, for example, which is sometimes not the optimum way. Sometimes you take the train is not always the optimum way. So it needs to be an algorithm which is giving you really the best approach and the best mobility means for that person and individual according to a certain target. And really a platform on top which is orchestrating everything. This is really the key. There are platforms like that for rail. There are platforms like that for planes. There are platforms like that now for like Uber and those kind of cars and taxis and so on. So it is possible to have it globally. That's I'm convinced. Technology-wise, it's possible. Commercially wise, it needs to be an agreement.
Yeah, صح عندك الحق لأنه commercial wise, imagine that you skip or you're in there is a delay in your airplane, your flight. Then what would be the consequence or your next transportation mode? اللي هو المترو ولا will they reimburse you? Will they schedule you on the next train or on the next flight? Or so between airlines now it's managed, but it's in the airline industry like you said. بصح ماهيش كيما لك كي لو كان نكومبينيو مثلا bus train metro تولي تخلط الحكاية شوية. That's
so yeah, they will need to have an adaptation to propose you possibilities, of course, and then compensation wise it needs to be distant, of course.
صح. نظن بلاتفورم ولا شركة كيما أوبر is one of the best suited companies اللي يقدروا يديروا هذا الشيء كنت تحكي عليها. كاين واحد فيديو كانت تشان في يوتيوب يسموها ويندوفر برودكشن، روعه. يحكي هو ميلي على لوجيستكس ويحكي بزاف على هذو الايرلاين ترافيك لوجيستكس وكذا. عنده الفيديو هاي اللي اسمها واي ايرلاينز كويتلي بيكيم بانكس، اللينك بعد في الديسكربشن. يحكي كيف الايرلاينز يبيعوا المايلز تاعهم للشركات هذوك تاع الكراء السيارات، وانت كيوزر يعطيك المايلز ومن بعد هذوك ما يستعملهم في شركات كما هيرتز ولا افيس هذوك ولا المعروفين. فايتس فاسينيتينغ فاش البزنس موديل قادر يسويشي ساعات يدخلوا بدراهم بهذوك المايلز والبيع تاع المايلز اكثر من بالك من التيكت في روحه. فايتس فيري فاسينيتينغ كيما قلت تروح وتولي هي اتس بزنس موديل يعني اكثر ما هي بالك تكنولوجي ولا
And the cars, for years, we were talking about autonomous cars and so on, but those, let's say, maybe level 5 autonomous cars, they are going to be very, very expensive. So it means people are going to probably to avoid to buy them. So you will be a user of those cars. And I think this is what could help a little bit the business model to change from the car, not necessarily car suppliers, but car suppliers will be probably selling this to companies who are managing a fleet of cars. Then you will become just a user of that car. Basically, you are booking, I want to go to the airport now. The car arrives. I don't have even a driver, right? It goes to the airport. We can select that it goes to the train station, make sure that it arrives on time. And take your train directly to the airport. So could be possibilities, but there's still a need of collaboration between those all mode of transportation.
كاين هذيك الشركة ويمو، نظن قيل كسبتها جوجل إذا مانيش غلط، ولا عندها هذوك اللي يقولوا ليفل 4 5 ويخدموا في أريزونا. يعني كاين واحد ثاني، واحد اليوتيوب شانل معروفة بزاف اسمها فيريتاسيون، يهضر على الساينس ومرات، ودار ديمو معاهم. عندهم سمول فليت تاع هذول الكروسات، تروح لك اوتونوموس كار تجيبك من الايربورتس. وحتى مؤخرا مرسيدس نظن داو الاجريمنت تاع الليفل 3 هذيك تاع الاوتونومي في ثاني نيفادا، نظن حتى نيفادا ستيت بوشيو بزاف يعودوا هما الليدر في هذا تاع الاوتونوموس كارز. انا نظن باللي من بعد لما يدخلوا الاوتونوموس كارز هذو للطرق تاعنا، ذا بيجست كيما نقولوا هنا بروبلم هو يولي الانسان. يعني هما السيارات بيناتهم يقدروا يكومونيكيو، واحده تفوت يحترموا القوانين. هو انا ترانزيت نشوف فيها باللي كي نلحقوا 51% يعني اوتونوموس كارز في الطريق، السويتش راح 100% راح يكون سريع جدا. يعني انه لا بعد نشوفوا باللي الارجيومنت نقولوا ها شوف الناس هما اللي يديروا في الحوادث. بعد دائما ترجع اللي كما نقولوا هنا تولي مشكل فلسفي ومشكل اخلاقي تاع لو صرا حاجه واحد يموت ولا كذا، شكون مسؤول؟ اللي خدم السياره، الاوبريتور، الانشورنس. وهذه الواعره كاين يحكي عليها اسمه نسيم طالب في الكتاب تاعو ثاني، هذا كيفاش لو تعود عند انت كانسان ويخرج فيك هذيك الديلام تاع يخرج فيك طفل صغير ولا عجوز، شكون تضرب؟ كل واحد كاش يشوفها. السياره الانسان دائما قادر نقولوا له ما على بالوش ولا ما شافش، ولا كاين نعطوه هذيك لامارج هذيك تاع الايرور. من الماشينه لا يتود بيك انها بروجرام، يعني توك يعني كونشس ديسيجن تو كيل هذاك البيبي ولا ذا اولد وومن. فمن بعد وان يو كما نقولوا ساي باللي كاين هذيك ديسيجن، معناها كاين وراها نيه، فكاين هذيك النيه انك تقتل. في المحكمه على بالي ندخلوا يعني في فيرست وورد بروبلمز. مي نكملوا دائما في المجال بحكم العمل تاعك من قبل في الريلويز. ممكن تحكي لنا شويه على يعني فيوتشر ريل ترانسبورتيشن؟ الجزائر دوكا بداو في الريل ترانسبورتيشن. انا لحد الان دايخ كيفاش الجزائر ما استثمرتش من قبل في الريل ترانسبورتيشن، ولحنا في يعني نشوف مشروع كما طريق سيار. انا شخصيا بالجهل تاعي نظن لو ذيك الملايير دولارات حطيناها في تطوير سكك الحديد النقل بين الولايات والجزائر، اولى بكثير من 20 مليار في طريق سيار شرق غرب اللي مش عارف شحال صرفنا عليه. فهل ممكن تعطينا رايك في هذه والخبره تاعك في هذا المجال؟
There's I think a Brazilian politician, he was saying a developed country is not poor people are driving cars, but it's where rich people are using public transport. Right. So, and you can see it in some very developed countries. Go to, I don't know, Singapore, everybody's using public transport. Cars is the last solution. Oh. And there's a reason behind, because of population, because of pollution, because, I mean, if everybody has a car, it's going to be really an issue. But you have to mix, and this is what they are doing there. They are mixing. So if there's really necessity to have a car, you can have the car. Of course, you're going to pay the price for it, but I don't believe on the extreme side. So it needs to be something which needs to be balanced. Because it's pleasant to drive a car when there's not many people driving a car, for sure. Right. But I agree with you on that financing part, because, you know, a lot of people wants to travel and have that flexibility and so on. And I personally, for example, when I go to Paris, I don't take a flight. It's only when there's really no possibility. I just take the train. And why I take the train? Because I'm seated, I have a table, I can use my laptop, I can make calls. I'm reachable on the phone with my family or work. So it's really, really convenient. Maybe there's a need to develop more hospitality, like in the plane, in the train side. So I think every industry can learn from the other side. To come to your question about Algeria, of course, I mean, there's a huge need first to develop that industry. Unfortunately, it takes too long time for different reasons. You can see the metro of in Algiers, how long it took to have this metro opened.
من وقت طبيتنا.
I've never seen a project taking so much time to go. In China, we talk about 2, 3, 4 years. In Algeria, it took us, I don't know, 30 years maybe or something.
نظن ما كانش عندهم دراهم أكثر no?
Do not start the project.
مع التسعينات كانت شوية مش سهلة.
التسعينات yeah. We know, we all lived this period. This was difficult. Yeah, they stopped. There was a long break, of course, but we need to make sure that we are developing the skills as well there. So, of course, there are many companies who are coming to have projects there and so on, but we need to make sure that we do transfer of knowledge, that we are more and more autonomous in that skills. This is very important. I mean, we need to take time for that. To take time, and there's knowledge there. But the willingness is extremely important.
وهل ممكن تحكينا شوية من الإكسبيرينس تاعك من الجزائر ومن الصين بحكم الخدمة تاعك how can we learn from them يعني وش الحوايج نقدروا نتعلموها منهم سواء في المانجمنت سواء في الترانسفير اوف تكنولوجي لأنه نظن حتى شنو هذا كما قبلوا لو يخدموا متفكر مرة عادها مدة الريبورتاج كيفاش كانت الصين تحلل وقيلة في سيمانس وش يسموها الأخرى ألستوم وقيل باش يخدموا لها هذيك الهاي سبيد تاعها دركا ولا هما يخدموا تاعهم.
Yeah, in any contract, I mean, I've seen many projects and many contracts, at least they ask for localization contract as part. I mean, if you want to invest, if you want to have a project in my country, part of the contract will be that you localize part of the technology in my country. China is doing that. India is doing that heavily. So it means either transfer of technology or production. This is how you are going to learn. You learn by doing. You get the experts, you build the labs, laboratories, build the knowledge, you build the university for the company. So it means really to teach and to develop the people for the product, for the technology of that specific area. And then production. Some countries ask for, okay, you need to produce. You need to have, I don't know, 50% of production needs to be in my country, for example. Because you are all things there. It's not just production. You are teaching the people how they are building the production facilities. You are putting those people to manage this. They will understand the processes. They will understand all the technologies around them and all the safety and the regulations and the quality which needs to be taken into account. You are developing a high level of skills like that. I don't think we have done that in a certain extent in Algeria, and we need to do that. Right. It's not a result of 1 or 2 years. That's to be very passionate on this. It takes time, and we need to invest on this and to be courageous enough saying, I need to localize technologies in my country to develop the skills of the people.
صح أمين هل تشوف أنت باللي China has some power because they have a large market. بس كان عندنا اليوم القدرة أننا نيغوسيو مع الشركات الكبار كما طاليس ولا نقول لهم باللي كي تجي يعني مثلا نحكي لك على تاع شركة تاع فيات مؤخرا داروا الكونترا مع زاهر نقدروا نقول له بلي أنا نقول له بلي أنا نجي لك بلي تدير 50% of the production lines they should be في الجزائر somewhere. عندنا هذاك do we have this power or it depends on the projects?
I mean, look, it depends on the project, of course, but it's all about the market analysis. I mean, if you have a number of people and users and a number of consumers, and you're saying, okay, I have, I don't know, 100...
The market size.
Exactly, a market size of 100 million people who are potentially going to buy a car per, I don't know, certain period. But to do that, I put some exigence like, I need to have production there, but then you need to transfer the knowledge and so on. It's an advantage for the company, for both. I think it's a win-win because for the company, for example, if you have Fiat or Renault or Peugeot, what they're going to do, they're going to reduce the price, maybe reduce at least not the price, but the cost of production because it's locally produced there. If they are producing more, they can always see in the neighbors like in Tunisia, Morocco, and so on. So there is an advantage, but you need a clear business case, calculating all these things. If you are having those a market size which is interesting for the company, you know, they want to earn money. Why they don't do it? Do it. It's a question of economical interest there.
هل ممكن تحكي لنا على البروجي تاعك واستفادت منه الجزائر اللي خدمتوا مع Akka Technologies تاع الريل وكيفاش كنا قادرين نديروه خير if you go back to the same period now that you have some experience in management?
In where? Which project you mean? In Algeria?
The project that you did with Akka Technologies.
Yeah. There is a culture of timing and planning which needs to be improved.
That's true.
When we say we need to deliver at that time, it needs to be delivered at that time. regardless of the situation, and you can always find ways to find solutions. But time is really an important aspect, which we sometimes neglect. Earlier you're delivering, earlier the passengers are going to benefit out of it, and earlier you're getting your earnings as a company who is operating the stations and the lines. So, and we need to think about that. It's not like, okay, I don't mind because it's not touching me as a manager or as a project manager, and then if you are delaying, it's fine. We need to make sure that we are rolling out projects like that. It's not something which is exclusive. It's one day, it's done, one moment, and that's it. It needs to be something normal. It's like you are building buildings. You have to do it every time. There's always something to improve. There's always something to roll out in that mobility sector. In China, you can see, the number of lines they have been building in the past years is just unbelievable. And then they developed their own industry. They became autonomous. They localized many suppliers in the country, and then they do it by themselves. And then you have experts who are doing everything by themselves. Japan in the past, they were doing the same. They were just, going outside, taking the technologies, copying sometimes. Let's use the word, getting some inspirations from other. And then they became experts, and now it's the norm. So Japan is the norm in terms of quality, in terms of innovation, and so on. China is becoming the norm as well today. So China is not anymore like we were saying in the past. Taiwan is the same. Taiwan, no. I've been in Taiwan. It's comparable to Japan, honestly speaking.
اكثر كاع حتى يعني لو تشوف كيما تي سي ام سي هذاك اللي تطبع اسمهم سيمي كوندكتورز كي راحوا يحلوا ذاك في الامريكان مع المشكل تاع بين تايوان والصين البروبلم ما لقاوش كواليفايد يعني وركرز في الامريكان فايتين العالم يعني.
Exactly. So, but it takes time. It takes time, and it's not just like that, and then in 1 year and you think everything is done. But it starts from learning from the others. It's always about learning. So you develop yourself. You understand, you send people, you bring knowledge, and then working and then learning by doing is really the key. There is a huge potential.
أنا كنت حابب نسقسيك على الصحراء تاعنا كيفاش نقدروا نديروا عليه إنه عندنا مشكل تاع ترانسبور كبير في الصحراء اليوم رانا نديروا فيه using trucks كيفاش هل trains are the solutions to the desert? Is it better than because it's like plains? You don't have any problems with geography and mountains and everything. ولا it's harder than لأنه إذا كان Chinese they have a bigger country in terms of area يقدروا يديروها إحنا نقدروا نديروها. كما كنت تقول لازم تكون فولونتير لازم تكون حاب ديرها. بصح اسكو الصحراء مشكل ولا كاين ناس داروا train lines في الصحراء without any problem in other countries?
I don't see it as a problem. It's look what has been done in Saudi. Look what has been done in UAE, etc.
Do they have trains? They do.
Yeah.
Between cities.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they have. It's only. Railway. Of course, you have constraints of temperature, sand, and but all those equipments are designed for that. If you take products like sensors, which you put on the rails. They are all designed with extreme level of temperature, sand, all this high IP level for liquid or water and sand, and as well temperature, radiation, etc. So they are all developed with a very, very high extreme impact. So I don't think it's an issue at all. It's a question of rolling out those kind of projects. It happens, it's done. Now you can think about the speed you want to have in that area, etc. But you were mentioning a high level of, it's like a plane. It's a point to point. So for long distances, in UAE, they were thinking, and also in Saudi between, Neom and I think Riyadh, they were thinking about having a Hyperloop. So why in Algeria we don't think about such kind of project for a long distance where you have very sunny area where all this infrastructure, there are some projects, I will not mention the name of the companies here, but there are some companies who are really thinking of using the top tube with the solar panel so that you are neutral.
Carbon footprint.
And this is something which is possible. Morocco did a very large plant of solar panel for their energy and so on. There's a space, but there's a need.
So why not?
Yeah, exactly. And the money, I don't think it's going to be an issue. You can invest. You have investors. The problem is that the risk of investment in the country is always high in Algeria. That's the problem.
وانا تبان لي اكثريتها كيما قلت مانجمنت وفيجن بروبلم اكثر ما هي تكنيكال بروبلم. ولا لو انا كل واحد الحوايج ساعات نشوفهم ونقول هل السيد اللي دار هذا البروجي انسان؟ يعني اعطيك مثال، كان طريق نظن بين والساره والجلفه ولا غير مش غلط، منطقه يجي فيها يعني الغبار ولا الفونسابل، هذاك في طريق دوبل فوا تدي وتجيب، هذاك اللي يفرق بين زوج طرق ولا سيباراتور، هذاك في العرض يديروه وين يخلي التراب، لا دايرينه بالبيطون، يعني التراب يتكدس في الجهه ولا لا فوا هذيك تاع الهاي سبيد ثالثه ولا اللي يجري فيها الانسان، وتلقى فيها كومه تاع تراب. يعني تقول كيفاه خمم هذا السيدي دار مشروع كيما هذا، ما يقولش بلي السيدي يجي يجري دوبري في الليل ما يشوفش كان تراب يدخل يتقلب، تلقاها تروح وتولي تروح تطلع من الجنوب، تطلع من غردايه ولا من الخوات تروح للعاصمه وتعاود تولي تلقاها مازال كومه التراب هذيك. وبعد كي يموت واحد ثم يقول لك مكتبه وكذا، كي يخسر عليك يخسر عليك بلاكه هذيك الصفراء هذيك تاع خطر مؤقت شويه قدام. نظن باللي اتس مونتاليتي، يعني لو عندنا الفيجن تاع انه نحبوا نخدموا والاخر بقيه كيما قلت تشوفوا جيراننا واش راهم يديروا بلي موين اللي عندهم قل نقدروا نديروا اكثر منهم.
Yeah, sure. The issue we can face is, if you go with, let's face it, the situation of, for example, Algeria today, and then you go with the high-end project like Hyperloop. I mean, we don't have food, and then you are trying to spend money for Hyperloop and things like that, I think it's extremely important to give a better vision to the population. When you take Saudi Arabia, take Neon Project, they made a whole film to explain the why, the reason, the purpose. And this is something we don't have. We're just saying, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and we're going to do that without explaining. People need to understand the reasons why those things are being done and the benefits they are going to have and so on. And by creating that vision, you might be even correcting your audience because you are convinced that this is the right thing, and then you find out by creating the vision that this is not maybe the priority, or that you need to adjust, to question a little bit ourselves as well. But providing that vision is very important. It's a almost neutral side of the planet, this area, for example, in the south of Algeria, which is not used as it should be used.
صح.
أمين بهمن طورش الأخر حابين نريزيمي وللناس هم يسمعوا فينا نحكوا على trains, metros and tramways from design perspective. وش الفرق بين trains between cities, trains between two points in the same city using tramway ولا metro؟ هل ممكن تشرحنا in terms of design وش هم الفروقات اللي لازم انتم تاخذون بعين الاعتبار في الديزاين تاع trains؟
Yeah, there's not much difference. There's not much differences between the designs. But there's one big thing which is very important, is basically the speed. When you are traveling between the cities, you have higher speed naturally because you want to reach the place as early as possible. And when you do that, you need to make sure that you are designing your network accordingly. For example, when you design your network or your line, you need to make a certain split in the lines itself. We call it sections, the wording it's used. So usually when you have a high speed, this section is bigger, each section is bigger. And if you have a low speed for metro, it's smaller. And then this affects, of course, the type of vehicles are used, the type of technology used or cabling which are used in design, etc., etc. But fundamentally, what is the design of railways? You need to make sure that you know exactly where the train is in order to take decision if you move the train or you keep the train in the position. So in general, this is it. But what makes the design of metro, tramways, or main lines complicated or complex is the safety. You cannot afford to have mistakes, errors, because this is going to cause an accident. So you're moving hundreds and thousands of people in the train. If it's a car, you have maximum 4 or 5 people in the car, right? You can extrapolate and you have 2 cars together, 3 cars together. But if it's a train which is derailing or having a shock with another train, you can imagine the damages. Plane which is crashing, we are talking about the same magnitude here. So for every design of a product or even connecting the product together, so it means a system, you need to make sure that you have a probability of 10 minus 9 per mistake per hour. So 10 minus 9 means, we're talking about 0.0000, 9 after the comma, probability to have a mistake. Yeah, so you need to design your product in order to reach that level of availability or reliability mainly. So it's not easy, and that's why door basically to access to that market for suppliers, for competitors is very complicated.
Oh,
No, it's not just a simple board which needs to be there. You need to consider all the connections, the architecture, the communication layers, the type of components you use, the housing you use, the type of material which are used, etc. So it's something which is not very, very easy to design, but companies who are experts on that, they know how to do it. So it's a really specific expertise. But at the end of the day, if we want to make it in a high level, knowing exactly the position of the train, the speed of the train, in order to take decisions in terms of orchestrations, where to send the train, at what time, etc. Because it's not only the driver who is deciding today. The driver is getting also instructions from, which we call it the traffic management. Traffic management is a layer on top, which is visualizing all the trains, positions, and all the situation of the network, and then giving the instructions to the drivers to operate correctly.
I saw that in Toronto, you can the position of the tramways are shared within Google Maps. So if you want to take a tramway, you can follow it and see where it is live. And we reach that higher automation or following of the tramways, and that's really nice.
To that point, I mean, it is good information, but it's not enough or reliable for using it as a safety.
Of course, yeah. Mm.
I mean, we are working today, for example, how to position a train using satellite and also additional sensors inside of the trains to avoid to have sensors really on the tracks, etc. It's not something easy. It's not all companies who can achieve this. So it's not like just a smartphone and you're tracking. You need to reach this reliability of 10-9, as I'm saying.
Now, what strikes me, you can choose the tube with Paris Metro. You almost have no accident. Well, of course, it stops for maintenance reasons, for problems. jamais سمعنا كاين accident داروها. And that's really striking because you have these types of problems in other developing countries. But in developed countries, there is a certain threshold of safety that is really, you never think about a problem. You may think that it may be delayed or something like that, but never big safety reasons.
هايبرلوب هل ممكن تحكينا عليها أكثر؟ تو ديجري صح قادرين نديروها في الجزائر ولا هل تصلح على يعني لو نخمم نقولوا نديروا من العاصمة لتمرست ولا من العاصمة للوهران ولا تلمسان ولا العنابة؟ وش المتطلبات تاعها؟ نظن انه تسحق انرجي، هل تسحق يعني دي ستاسيون تاع مش عارف تريسيتي في مش عارف وين؟ هل لو نديروها في الجنوب افضل لانه كاين الشمس وكاين الطاقات التجديديه هذه مقارنه بالشمال؟ ولا راهي برك هايبرلوب فاد كما بقيه مشاريع اللي نحكوا عليها هذيك NFT وكذا هضرنا عليها شويه بعد رقدت اللعب، قالوا دوك تديروا بين دبي ابو ظبي مش عارف وراهم واصلين فيها، فهل ممكن تحكي لنا شويه اكثر عليها؟
But that's my personal point of view on this. I think Hyperloop is good for long distances. If you want to connect some areas which are not really connected today in terms of economy, and then you want to develop this area. For example, the deserts in the south, this is what they are trying to do also for Neon. You know, you are trying to have as much as flow as possible of people without taking all the constraints which you have with the planes and having an airport and so on and so on. But there is a topic of infrastructure which cannot be neglected. You need, you can have a small airport. You have just technologies to make sure that you are capable to land in a safe place. But for Hyperloop, you need a certain infrastructure. You need a special type of tube. You need a special type of pressurization. You need to make sure that you are checking the pressure in all the way around through the line. You need a serious maintenance. I mean, it's not something like every type of technology. You need to maintain the systems and you need to make sure that everything stays reliable and it's not degrading. I've seen many things which started very good in some countries. And then if you're not calculating all these operational activities, it degrades and then you are losing your system completely. So it is all that needs to be considered during the design phase. But the energy part is not, I don't think it's a problem for Algeria. I mean, it's a sunny country through the year, especially in the south, that you can have solar panels through the lines and you can have really a footprint, which is very, in terms of energy, very interesting for the country. But there's a certain investment. Infrastructure is not an easy thing, It's like there are some studies, but it depends. It needs to be looked at in details. The cost between high-speed tracks, because they are very special tracks. for the trains.
Wow.
Cost of building a Hyperloop tube. Some people are saying it's comparable. Some says it's cheaper. Some says it's more expensive. I think you will know reality when you have the first project.
صح.
The theory is a theory. But I think we should start with the basics to roll out lines which are reliable, which are maintained and where people can really use and try to develop the economy by moving in different countries and developing some other cities which are not developed today.
كنت تحكي عن المينتنس. أمين، هل ممكن تحكي لنا عن البروجي اللي درتوه مع طاليس وين المينتنس تقدروا تديروها عن بعد remote maintenance using augmented and virtual reality؟ كيفاش حتى جاتكم الفكرة وعلاش it's viable from the business perspective؟
Everything comes from observations and from experience. That time I was product trainer and I was providing trainings internationally to our customers about our products. And then you learn what I've learned there is that even if people are certified, they are trained, they get certification and so on. But when they are maintaining products, which are, as you were saying, Taha, about you don't have so many failures in the system, right? The problem is when it's a good thing, right? When you don't have so many failures, it means you are not, as a maintainer, you're not really training yourself to maintain a system.
Yeah, صحيح.
You're not repairing the system every month or even every year. So you're losing that knowledge. When you lose your knowledge, when the problem happens, it's going to be an issue because you are forgetting how to maintain it and how to improve the system and so on. And therefore, this idea came saying, okay, from our side, we have experts of the products we are maintaining. We know exactly how our product works, how to support the people who are on site, right? To provide them with the support, with a certain expertise straight away. So when there's a problem, they call us, we connect using those AR glasses. And the idea is basically to see exactly what is happening with a display and then showing them with AR what they have to do. So guiding them. It's like I'm sitting next to the person who is having a problem, telling him what to do. That person is going to do the work. So it's not, I am not solving the problem. I'm just guiding the person. The person is learning at the same time when the person is. So it helps because you are saving time for the operators. So they are quickly solving the issue, which is an advantage that of course. But also they are saving time because, if they cannot solve it by themselves, they will have to call experts from the supplier side. And then, the time.
To get the expert and so on, yeah.
Get the experts. We're talking about days, sometimes weeks. They cannot afford it. They cannot wait for solving the problem like that. So this is how this idea came. So it came from really a market need, really a problem. And then we said, what kind of technologies can help us actually to do that? And that's how we call it the eye, because the eye of the expert, because you see what is happening and then you provide the support remotely.
Interesting, because if you have an example or a video showing that, that's what I always tell students, that companies are capable of doing that, but that would be helpful to share that. And we'll share it also with the podcast, Yeah.
I was in conference of a London Business School in England, in London. It was in their premises, and they invited a philosopher called Grayling. And this philosopher was making a speech about what is a good life. Very wide topic. And then he was discussing and talking, and then he came at the end with a conclusion saying, good life is basically maintenance. Why maintenance? Because it's always about, you have a friend. A friend is a friend today, but you need to maintain that relationship. Family, but you need to maintain equipment. You need to maintain equipment. Anything needs to be maintained in order to keep the things running correctly and having a good life. Basically, this is what he was saying.
And it costs money and time to do that.
Money, time, but it costs. It's better than losing everything at the end. I think this is very important. I think it's better to maintain and plan, right, what you are, the expenses of this maintenance, than planning nothing and then you are losing more at the end of it, because you are saving on the maintenance, but you are not saving. You are losing at the end of the day. Talking about the vision and longer perspective is very important.
ما نطولوش عليك أمين. سؤال أخير، حكينا على موضوع ورانا حكيت عليه من قبل، كيفاش هنا في الجزائر والدول تاعنا ساعات يركزون على التكوين النظري وتكوين حتى التطبيقي ساعات، وهنا كانجينير ولا الناس اللي يسمعوا فينا اللي عندهم تكوين تقني ساعات نحسبوا باللي أهم حاجة هي هذوك الهارد سكيلز والكونيسونس تكنيك في المجال تاعنا، ونهملوا أهمية تاع هذوك السوفت سكيلز ولا المهارات اللي تخلينا من بعد في الشركة ولا في سوق العمل، سواء كنا نخدموا عند رواحنا وسواء عند الناس، كيفاش كما كنت حكيت سواء في الماركتينغ، سواء كيفاش تجيب الزبائن، كيفاش تعامل مع الزملاء في الخدمة تاعك، كيفاش لما توفر، كيفاش تقدر يعني حتى اللي فايتينك في يعني في الرتبة في الشركة اللي فيها ولا في المجال تاعك تاع العمل باش تترقى من بعد. وهذه المشكل ساعات راهم ما نتعلموهاش هنا وهنا طلبة، ولا نتعلموها من بعد ذا هارد واي. ساعات ذا هارد واي ما عادش هذاك الهامش تاع الخطأ، فساعات دير أخطاء كبيرة ولا نقول حتى من الأفضل لو عرفناها من قبل. تذكرتها من التجربة تاعك في كيفاش خدمت في المشروع تاعكم في البليدة في الجامعة على هذاك الروبوت مع أصدقائك، كنت تعلمت بزاف حوايج. وأنا نفس الشيء تجربة تعلمت هذاك كان عندنا نادي علمي وشاركنا في دي كونكور، رحنا بهم للخارج مثلا الجزائر، واستفدنا ياسر حوايج منهم واللي يساعدوني حتى من بعد باش لقيت خدمه قبل ما نكمل قرايتي. وهذا النشاطات وهذه الامورات حتى التربصات تعطي للطالب اكسبوجر للسوق العمل البكري، على الاقل يقدر يوجد. ممكن تحكي لنا على اهميه هذو تاع السوفت سكيلز وكيفاش حتى انت السويتش تاعك من يعني هارد يعني ساينس وروبوتكس وشابه الى حتى راك كيفاش عقبت انت الماركتينغ وكيفاش ساعدوك. نقدر نشوفوا حتى الاثنين كيفاش ساعدتك يعني السوفت سكيلز تاعك اللي قدرتهم كيفاش انت ك يعني بي اتش دي روبوتكس كيفاش في مجال عملك، والعكس يعني هاو الهارد سكيلز اللي تعلمتهم انت كانجينير ك بي اتش دي في الخدمه تاعك حاليا. تفضل.
Yeah, I think it's always a question of balance. It's always a question of balance. You can be experts on something, and but if you are not willing, I know many extremely skilled people in very specific areas. They have a hard time to work with people. They cannot work with people. They're always with fights, always with conflicts. They want that their ideas is always understood in the right way, in their way, and so on. And you need to have that kind of sense of working with people, because at the end we are in a society where you have to deal with people, and you have sometimes to take and give and back and so on. So this is an extremely important thing. But at the end, it's always about you need to take a certain high level of observation of the situation. Try to learn. Learning is something which is always continuous. My father was always telling me, you will never quit university. You are always learning. He's right. You're always learning from anybody, actually. Anyone, from anybody. You are learning different things, different situations. Whatever the level of study or position in society, you are always learning from the people. And you need to be open for that. You need to be open for that, humble. And you understand how to navigate in the companies. It's true that in Algeria, we were a lot focusing on the hard skills. Oh, you have this degree. My daughter is having a degree there, engineer, doctor, and so on. And we give too much importance to that thing, right? But the people who are trying to find solutions like entrepreneurs, we don't even consider them, It's like, he's a business guy. And it's seen as a very negative thing, but that person is learning much more than the person who is at the university. And then if you can combine both, it's just a dream, because you are having a hard skills and you know how to navigate, you know how to work with people, how to solve problems, how to analyze situations. This is something which, of course, you can learn by doing, but you can learn by reading books, watching podcasts, getting some inspirations from people. But all that thing can be learned only if you are ready to open up and say, okay, I'm not perfect. I'm learning from other people as well who succeeded to do what they are doing today. The right thing is the balance. Of course, you can have the soft skills only, not having expertise on a certain topics. It could be more difficult for you in an organization, because you will not have this buy-in from the experts. They will not understand, or they think that you are not understanding what you are saying. You need to speak the same language, etc. The opposite is the same thing. So if you are just experts and you cannot deal with people, you can have problems of integration. I think what I've learned during my career and my path is when I was working in a different environment, which I was lucky to find myself there. Even when I was in Blida, it was a completely different environment, because doing this robotic things and so on led us to meet many different personalities in Europe, in France, different robotic teams were traveling the world. So this was really, really a good thing. And then it opened up a little bit your spirit, and then you can see how the people are moving from just hard skills and then trying to build something bigger by navigating and working with people and creating a team and leading a team. And then, going to France and Europe and working also in a company which is not a small company, you need to impose liberty yourself and position yourself as a leader. And many people are like that in Algeria. We just sometimes, how to say, حطوا روحنا شوية اللون. لازم نشوفوا شوية bit more ambition. Because we can. I think there are many people who are really, really good at that. You need to balance this with humility, of course, but there are people who can do a lot of things, but we need to position ourselves and say really that everything is possible.
I mean, كنت سقسيك نحكمك نقول لك عندي you have the best expert in one field, say robotics, but he has little to no soft skills, and you have one who is good or average, but he has very good skills. As a leader, which one would you take in your team?
It depends on the situation. Actually, I like to have people who are also reserved, difficult to manage, because I like this challenge.
But that's to you, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I like this. Of course, it's easier to say I take only the people who are easy to manage and they are open and so on, and then you need only. In general, I will tell you, I hire the attitude, and then the skills can be always taught.
That's how I go with PhD students. If you have you cannot go longer with them for 3 years, for example, with somebody who has a very bad attitude.
Yeah, attitude for me is the most important, because people need to be respectful. People need to be open to work with the others and willing to do and motivated to do things. You need to detect this, of course. There are methodologies for that. You need to understand the behavior of people and so on. But I'm always putting that small part, saying it depends, because, if you are looking for a very specific skill, which is something you cannot find, you need to be able as a leader to manage also personalities which are difficult to manage. Of course, it is complicated, it's more challenging, but as a leader, you need to be able to do that.
Most of 90% of Amin's decision is attitude. 10% is expertise.
هي حتى كي تقول ما عندوش سوفت سكيلز، كاين ديجريس فيها. كاين عباد اللي هيز نوت جود، كاين اللي باد، كاين اللي مسكين نقولوا حشام ولا ما يعرفش يكسبريمي روحه ولا ما يعرفش كوميونيكي، كاين اللي والو، كاين اللي يدير لك مشاكل. نخدم معنا واحد هكذاك كومبيتون، يعرف يخدم مليح. جا عندنا ستاجير ولكنه ما يعرفش يهضر، متربي يربح لك العيب مع الكليون، مع الزميل تاعو، مع تاع يدير لك مشكل. ما تتكلش عليه، تعود يخدم، تعود خايف كش ما يقول كلمه لواحد ولا يدير لك تولي ترقع وراه. وكاين هذاك اللي مسكين جاب دروعه وحشام ولا صح ما يعرفش كومينيكي، ولا ساعات يدير غلطات، يعني على الاقل تقدر ترقعها وراه.
Yeah, and then developing people as well. I mean, there are some people who have potential. They are not like that, but you can feel that they can, go further, and then you act as
they can grow
as a mentor if you can. Yeah.
I mean, one last advice that you would give to our listeners, mainly youth, what would you give them?
That's right. Nothing is impossible, guys. Everything is, but just try to do things. Believe me, I was trying sometimes. A long time ago, I was really introvert, basically trying to say, okay, that's not for us. And then when I started to try, contact some people, trying to push a certain ideas, getting, I don't know, I can give you some examples if you want.
Please.
I was in a conference once in, I think it was in Dubai, and I was meeting the CEO of Boston Dynamics.
We wanted to talk about that, but yeah.
I was just chatting and discussing and so on. And then I just told myself, this robot is basically costing like 75k kilo euros. It's expensive. And let me try to do something with my skills, with my little robotic skills today. Try to do something cheap. Right. So I try to do things at home during my free time and so on. Of course, it costs money. To develop something for free. You need motors, you need, basic things which are costing a certain money. And then I just told to myself, because I was trying to do something, and then just told to myself, either I stop because I don't have this money. I'm not going to put like 5,000 euros only for buying motors, or I try to find a different solution. Different solution is to find a sponsor who wants to sponsor me for building the robot, right? And then you can think this is a crazy thing. Who is going to sponsor you?
Exactly. I would say the same thing. Yeah.
I just ended up sending an email to a company who are building servo motors, smart servo motors, and so on, and explaining the project, what I have done before, and so on. Of course, when they see what you have done before and so on, it opened up a little bit the doors, but still they are putting money to somebody they don't even know a second, right? And then they told me, okay, what is the project about? And this company is in South Korea. We're not talking about somebody who is just in the corner here. Just explain the project and so on. And then the 2 weeks later, they were sending me a package like that with very expensive one.
Okay.
So this is a very simple thing. Or I don't know, I can give you another example. I'm working on a project for a new way of marketing. One day we can talk about it in the future. And I had the chance once to meet a very good friend of mine now is the founder of Reebok. So that's, Reebok, the brand, the brand and so on. And I was explaining him, I was pitching him the project. And now he's my associate advisor in the project.
Oh.
When I was a kid, I was buying my first
Reebok.
Reebok. I was like crazy about it. My father was buying this from friends and so on. I was never thinking one day this person would become my advisor and friend. You get those things only when you ask. So of course you don't ask for crazy thing if you don't have legitimities, but if you have a certain thing, ask the people. People are interested on different profiles. Wherever you come from, wherever you have done, whatever you have done, ask, because those are the people who are going to help you and support you. So don't be shy and just move on. Everything is possible.
صح.
شكرا أمين، بارك الله فيك، كنت بصراحة هايلة معك. The ending was really nice. شكرا جزيلا على وقتك. كما قلت لنا راك وقتك على بالكم كنا نحكي لكم أمين شحال عندنا بالي كونتاكتينا باش جبناه. تضحكوا but let's keep that for us. شكرا جزيلا أنك أجبت الدعوة، شرفتنا اليوم في الحلقة هذه اللي استفدنا فيها كثيرا. أنا واحد من الناس استفدت من كل النواحي، يعني technically on the human side, on the managerial side, something that we really appreciated. So it was nice. It was really appreciable to have you on the podcast. Zuberi, if you want to say any last words before we wrap up.
شكرا، يعطيك الصحة، تعلمنا منك كثير. أنا ثاني يعني كيما تقريبا the same boat كما نقولوا مع الأول، لأن نخدم في الروبوتكس يعني من ناحية التكنيك. إن شاء الله في المستقبل الواحد يخمم يدير يعني شركته ولا يدير حاجة اللي يعقب مانجمنت. It was very inspiring. وإن شاء الله في المستقبل تكونش هذه آخر مرة، إن شاء الله تلاقوا.
إن شاء الله. مستمعينا الكرام، شكرا جزيلا على أنكم وصلتوا لآخر الحلقة. نلقاكم في حلقة أخرى إن شاء الله. السلام عليكم.